Good morning, Henry. I'm okay. I'm okay. How about, I guess I should say to you, good evening. How's your classes going? Good, I guess. That's exactly how I feel. I guess. Hey, Kit. Good morning or good evening.
Hi, Professor.
Hmm? Let's see. Okay, let's get started this morning. So a couple things I wanted to say. First is I apologize about the Shore reading. Is that originally with Juliet Shore, Born to Buy, I posted the whole chapter, and I really apologize if you read the whole chapter. I think it's really good, so I'm not going to really apologize. But that was much more than we'll talk about. We're only going to talk about really a very small part. In fact, I think probably we won't even get through the 4 pages I gave you. So I apologize if you read the whole thing. It's a really good book and it's interesting, but there was no reason for you to read the whole thing. So my deep apologies. We're only going to talk about those 4 pages and maybe only half of them. So I apologize for that. The other one is, okay, so just a couple things just to say administratively. So this is, again, our little chart of the due dates for essays, right? And keep in mind, so last Friday, you gave me the first draft, the first submission of essay number 1. That's the orange side here. And so this week, Friday, Saturday at latest, I'm going to give you back the revised, and then you'll rewrite that for a second submission. And the higher grade will count, which will assumably be the second submission. So 1 grade, the lower grade disappears forever. And then the second grade, the higher grade, is your official grade. Okay, so keep in mind, you'll see, I'll get those back to you again Friday or Saturday, unless you were late. If you're late, maybe they might be more delayed than that. And if you haven't given it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. It's really important. I recognize first essay in especially if you're just beginning college, this is quite intimidating. The really key thing is to remember that structure of revision is the first submission grade is replaced by the second submission. So it just makes sense to get in as early as possible, right? That'll give me a chance to comment on it. It'll give me a chance to give you good feedback and then give you more of a chance to rewrite, rethink. You may hate what you give me, and that is okay. Trust me, we will work on it. By the end of the semester, you'll feel much better. Okay, so that's da-da-da-da. Okay, so the other thing due this Friday, of course, is the Brownian analysis. And again, this is the second track, right? The analytical essays are the orange, the sort of bluish are the Brownian analysis. And for the Brownian analysis, I gave you a exercise with 2 example Brownian analysis from last year and the year before. Very good part 1Bs. So if you need one example of what people have done before, really good jobs, then go take a look. There's one of them I think is perfume, and it's just fantastic how much you can say about a perfume bottle. I mean, actually, if you think, when you start thinking about it, there's all sorts of things to say. So go take a look at that. It's the example Brownian analysis. And I think doing that assignment will really help you write yours. Okay. So if you do that assignment, I think it'll really give you some good examples. There's two good examples and questions about the examples. So go forward, do that, and I think it really helped. The Brownian analysis also, by the way, you will be able to rewrite, but we'll talk about that later. Questions about that, about the structure of the writing assignments? Anything coming up like on that? Anything? Give me a second. So last Friday was the analytical essay, first submission. This Friday, the 1B of the Brownian analysis. And I try to keep them alternating. Okay, so that is that. Okay. Other questions about anything else just coming up as we go? All right, so let's take a look at Shore. So this is the revised Shore that I gave you to read. I want to talk about it. And first, I do want to take a minute to remember how this fits into the course, right? The course theme is things, the secret life of things. So as we talk about Shore, one of the questions would be how this Born to Buy, this excerpt from a book. Oh, I forgot to do something, but that's okay. How this excerpt from a book fits into our course. What does this say about things and our relationship to things and the secret life that things lead? So this is what I want to keep as a frame around our discussion. What is Shore saying about our relationship to things? Anybody want to take a shot, just offhand, what she's saying about our relationship to things? I mean, this essay is all about advertising, about kids and the influence that advertising has on kids, and how would that relate to our relationship to things? Yeah, think about it. As we talk about, we're going to come back to that question. So as we talk, keep that question in mind. So one of the first questions would be, is what her basic argument in these 4 pages, or I guess 8 pages are. What is she trying to get across, right? And let's take a look at some examples. So if we just zoom in. All right, it's a kind of funny thing. There are 2 things I wanted to say before we started, and I forgot. One is that usually when I teach this class, one of the reasons I pick this text is because in an American classroom with American students, everybody grew up on Nickelodeon, right? This text is 2004? Yeah, 2004, which means it's 16 years ago, which means if you're 20 right now, you were 4 when this text was written. And it means that you were about the right age to get all these shows. So one of the reasons I teach this is because I really like that, is that for American students, this is all super familiar. Of course, if you didn't grow up in the United States, I assume, and it's an assumption, I assume you don't know what Shore is talking about. So this is a kind of, I mean, I thought, I was actually very hesitant to teach it because of that. And I thought, what the hell, we'll find out what happened. But it is worth saying that there's a gap here, is that when I say Nickelodeon to a classroom full of American students, they're all like, oh yeah, I know Nickelodeon, because when they were kids, this is the TV they got. So let me read you Shore's little piece here. I am curious if anyone knows, I don't know if Nickelodeon had an international presence, or some of you I know did grow up in the US. I don't know actually anyone in the room, but some of you did. But I am curious if this is all, new or not. So here's her argument. Nickelodeon was a kids' TV show, TV station when cable first really, well, not first, but with cable, early on cables, no, it's not even that early. Well, it's kind of early. Nickelodeon was the big kids show, kids channel. And like I said, even my generation knew what Nickelodeon was, and I'm old. Early on, Nickelodeon earned a reputation for offering quality shows. Its graphics were visually arresting, and the content was fresh. In comparison to the tired world of program-length commercials, that is, shows whose primary purpose is to sell products, Nickelodeon's offerings stood out. Okay, so as I said, uniquely successful channel. Oops, I'm sorry, I actually did the wrong paragraph. Let's take a look at the next one, right? The secret of Nickelodeon's success is its core philosophy. Kids rule in everything they do. Nickelodeon tries to take the child's perspective, right? So this is talking about why Nickelodeon was so successful, what made it successful, right? And it's saying that the basic philosophy of the channel was this: kids rule in everything they do. Nickelodeon tries to take the child's perspective, right? The network has positioned itself as kids' best friend, on their side an often hostile environment. Okay, so any questions about that or comments? What does this mean? Thoughts about what this is Nickelodeon's secret, right, to success. What is Shore saying Nickelodeon's secret was? Want to take a shot? Kids rule. What does it mean? Thoughts about it? All right. Everywhere else, adults rule. At Nickelodeon, kids rule. Yeah, the basic. I mean, what she's saying is that the channel is based on that notion, is inverting authority. Is that kids' need was going to take precedence. Adults' needs second, right? And then she talks about this sort of, maybe I should have had a clip of this, is that one of the things that was on that TV show was they would, like, if you were caught being a jerk, you would get green slime dumped on your head. And the adults, of course, were the ones that are always getting green slime. So what's wrong with that, right? If this is the basis of Nickelodeon's success, right? Kids rule, right? Giving kids space. What's the problem? That sounds pretty good, actually. Kids deserve that. What's the problem? Right? Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a good point. Everywhere else, adults have all the power. Why shouldn't children have one little corner? What is Shore does not look on this as a good thing. What is the problem?
I think they're normalizing such behaviors for children.
Yes. I mean, one of the problems is that, such behavior is acting out, right? Like dumping slime on someone's head, right? Is that making, so kids rule, so they get to act in an irresponsible sort of, destructive in some sense. You're saying that's okay. That's an issue. Yeah, that's a good one. Normalizing that behavior, right? That's a problem. She's got this great example of this teenager who's like watching this TV show, the Amanda Show, and starts walking around. How does it go? Wait, I forget. Starts walking around saying, "My name is Joyce. You got a problem with that?" Right? Which, having a 9-year-old daughter, tell me, oh yes, that would drive me crazy. That would drive me. In fact, actually, it's kind of happened. So normalizing that classy, attitudinous behavior, that's a problem right there, right? So this is problem number one, right? Is that kids follow examples, and the examples of getting power here are examples which are sort of destructive and destructive of good behavior, et cetera, et cetera. She's got another reason, and it comes down to here, right? These two bits here are bits that I really want to pay attention to, because they go right to, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? I did something bad. Weird. All right, you're just gonna have to trust me that that box goes around the right paragraph, because I don't know that it does. This example, and then the other one is at the bottom. This example too. These are two commercials. So let me do this one first. Consider a well-known Starburst classroom commercial. The Starburst is a kind of candy. Maybe I really don't know what kind of candy you guys. Did you have Starburst? Have you didn't grow up in the United States? As the nerdy teacher writes on the board, the kids open the candy. The scene erupts into a riotous party. When the teacher faces the class again, all is quiet, controlled, and dull. So first, the teacher's at the board. When the teacher writes or looks to the board, the whole class erupts into color and fun. When the teacher looks back, everything goes quiet. The dynamic repeats itself. The commercial makes the point that the kids' world, courtesy of the candy, is a blast. The adult world, by contrast, is drab, regimented, boring. Right? What's the problem? What is her point here? I mean, she's upset at this. I mean, what's happening, and why is this a problem? Thoughts about it? Right? In this commercial. I don't know if you can imagine it, but basically it's something like, adults. Yeah, the adult world is drab, regimented, boring. Okay, adult world boring, kid world fun. Adult stupid, is smart, right? And it's particularly a problem for her because the kid world is all about the candy. Right? Is in order to escape the boringness of the adult world, you got to eat candy. It's all about the product. Right? The product is what the thing, and here we get back to our thing. The thing is what makes the world good. Adults, adult world, adult behavior, boring, 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 stupid. It's all about the thing. The company is your friend. Your parents are your, I don't want to say enemy, but your problem. Right? Thoughts about that? Let's take a look at the commercial. And I gave you, Henry wrote something. The contrast. Yeah, right. The contrast between adult world, which is so drab and boring and stupid. Right next to that is the kid world. All you have to do is munch this candy and you escape. Right. So the adult world is to be escaped because it's so foolish, and kid world, just as tied to that product, is this route to have fun and freedom. Right. So freedom is all about the product. Let me ask a question. Did you guys get a chance to watch the the commercial. I posted a commercial. Did you get a chance to watch that commercial? Yes, right? Yeah, I want to talk about that commercial. Yeah, good. You guys all watched it, right? Let me see if I can get it. Anybody else watching? Let me see some responses. So what I want to do is take a look at that commercial and think how what's going on in that commercial. How this, oh, good. Thank you, guys. How that commercial reflects Juliet Shore's ideas. Okay, let's take a look. Wait, let's see it. Let me see. I'm going to try to see if I can play it right now. It's only 30 seconds, so I never have any this doing video on this. All right, let's see. Is this going to work? Is it going to work? Is it going to work? Is it going to work? It's going to work. Can you hear it? Oh, I can totally hear it. Okay, so I'm gonna play this. Take a look. Watch it really carefully. Okay. Pay attention to thinking about the expressions of the adults, the expressions of the kids, what happens in here. Thinking about, and we're going to come back to Shore's paragraph. Okay, so let's start it over. Okay, what did you think? I mean, just just impressions just off the top of your head. Like, what do you make of that? Anyone? Just thoughts? What happens in there? Oh, Henry, I can't read Chinese. Anyone, just talking about it.
It's filled with a lot of sexual innuendos.
Go ahead. Where do you see sexual? The adults are very Henry. The adults are very busy, and the children are very naughty, right? And it's really, you're good at that contrast, right? The adult world is this ridiculous sort of serious. Let me see if I can get it up here. Like, look at that. Look at their expression. It was so important. And the kids are I mean, naughty is a negative, but they're having fun, right? I'm sorry, Kate, you were saying something important. I forget what you said.
Oh, I was saying that the video is filled with a lot of sexual innuendos.
Sexual innuendo. Where do you see sexual innuendo?
The words that the kids say. Maybe they don't mean it, but how the adults interpret it is that way. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I actually have to say that I think like it's a total kind of fart joke. Right? If you watch what happens, everyone's come on, go away. Everyone's in the elevator, and all of a sudden their faces go really strange, and it's exactly like somebody farted in the elevator, right? And all of a sudden you have this kind of stinky thing, and like adults, of course, are trying not to pay attention to it, but it's disgusting. Wilson, yeah, gives emotions, two emotions, right? And I think one for the adults and one for the kids, right? The kids is all about pleasure. The adults all about disgust, right? Yeah, really good. Other thoughts about the details. I think this is just so funny. If you watch her face, what is she thinking there, right? She's like, I'm adult. I'm the most important thing ever. And then just a little bit later, she's like, wait a second, something's wrong. And then all of a sudden their face, they're like, disgusting, right? Their faces are unforgettable, Wilson. Yeah, I absolutely agree. They're done so well. And then the kids at the end, like, look at that. And to me, this is kind of sexual. They're kids, of course, so it's more of a sensuality, right? Kids are so enjoying this pleasure of eating these worm things, right? They're so happy with this. Yeah. check my time. Yeah, other thoughts? What's happening here? So I want to tie this back to Shore, right? And particularly what Shore is saying about, let me try to get unforgettable. About, hold on, let me do a presentation. Stop sharing external video. Okay, so here's some clips from the video and also from Shore, right? So this is the Shore paragraph. Right? A Fruit to Go online promotion tells kids that when it comes to fashion class, your principal is a flunky. That's a different commercial. But this one, right? A spot for Sour Bright Crawlers, which is our spot, has a group of teen boys in an elevator going into gross detail about how they eat this gummy worm candy, eventually sickening the adults and forcing them to flee. The creators of the spot consider it a great example where tweens demonstrate their superiority of the situation with control over the adults. Okay. What is she saying? Why is this a problem? What does she mean? What's her point here? Okay. And I want to do this actually. I'm going to do breakout rooms. So take a look at this. All right. I'm going to break you into, let's say, 3 rooms and just take, let's say, 4 minutes to talk about it. Okay. What is Shore's point? Where do you see it in the commercial? How legit is it, right? What's her point? Does it seem like a good one? Yeah. Questions about that? All right. So I'm going to break you into groups for just say about 4 minutes. Talk about the commercial and particularly how it fits this quotation. And then when we come back, we'll have a little conversation. Okay. Questions about that? Ready to go? Okay, I'm going to do breakout rooms. I'm going to do, let's do 3. And we'll do 4 minutes. Or maybe 5. Okay. Randomly assign. Great. Okay, so let's take about 5 minutes. Talk about the quotation, the commercial, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about how this all fits Shore. Did that work? So you should be able to join your breakout room now. Excellent. Kids. Too many. Question, Henry. How does the commercial relate to? Does the commercial relate to this quotation from Shore? Yeah. How does the quotation relate to this quotation from Shore? How does the commercial relate to this quotation from Shore? Oh, poor kid is all alone. I better.
You are currently the only person in this conference.
All right, so we're back. The chat. I can hear you. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so so what do you make of this, right? It's what is Shore saying about the commercial? What details in the commercial are interesting? Anything at all? I love her face. Henry and Lily. You can hear me now, right? I'm okay. I'm hoping you can hear me now. Yes. Okay. So thoughts about Shore's point and how it relates to the commercial. Any of these details? I mean, one way to think about it is why Shore sees this as a problem, right? And how then to take this back to our conversation about things, right? Why is this a problem? Why is this commercial, which is funny, right? Why does Shore see it as bad, right? Because her point isn't that this is a funny commercial, ha 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 ha. No, her point is that this is corrosive and a problem. What makes this commercial a problem, right? Any thoughts about it? I mean, I can think of at least two things, and one was where Kit started us, is that the idea that encourages bad behavior. Okay, that's clearly a problem. Is that it makes it seem fun to disgust adults, and that that has why, right? So this is clearly one problem. The other problem, and this is where she really comes down on things, is the relationship between you and the thing, right? How advertising and how being soaked in advertising culture changes our relationship to things. And if you think about then what the worms do, what the object does, right? The object, Henry, their facial expressions are very humorous, which adds to the fun of advertising, making people laugh, and this makes customers interested in that, right? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. Is that the sense of being a pleasure in things, the sense that this is what's interesting, this is what's fun, is consuming. That the thing is a source of pleasure, happiness, freedom, right? The product, the company, that's the source of pleasure. And this is, I think, is what she's getting at as her biggest sense of problem. And wait, let me Wilson, keep typing. I'm going to go to the I'm going to get back to the Shore essay. Yeah, this one in particular, right? And she talks about some of the politics, American politics on this. And then she says this, right? Wherever one comes down on this debate, it's important to recognize the nature of the corporate message. Kids and products are lined together in a really great, fun place, while parents, teachers, and other adults inhabit an oppressive, drab, and joyless world. The lesson to your kids is that it's the product, not your parent, who's really on your side. Right? This idea that that it's the company, it's the product that's taking your side, and your parents are against you having fun. Oh, Wilson, you didn't finish typing. I just thought about this. Anybody? I mean, one, it's a good argument. I wonder if it's true, but it's a good argument. That the effect of this kind of commercial is really sort of super negative. Oh, okay. We're talking email. I don't know if it's true, but it's interesting, right? To make the case that this is happening. it does, I think, kind of change how we think about our relationship to things, right? Like, for instance, if I happen to like sour worms, trolley sour, bright sour worms, right? If that was my favorite candy, I think that Shore's point is something like, it doesn't have much to do with the candy. It has everything to do with the image that the candy conveys. Is that if I'm munching trolley bright sour worms, like, what I'm enjoying isn't the product itself. It's this thing which has been sold to me about the product, right? So my brain is kind of filled with this advertising, and that's what determines my taste. I don't know what I like. I've been told what I like, right? That's kind of her point. So when you pick a product, it's not about your personal individual enjoyment of it. It's really about what you've been exposed to about those products. Thoughts about that? Okay, we're going to come back to this. I also wanted to take a look at today other thoughts about, we're going to come back to Shore again, but any closing questions about her argument here? So the other thing I wanted to take a look at is the poem. All right, this one, Supermarket in California. And let me just actually ask about the book, right? Oh, shoot. Yeah, here it goes. This book. How are we doing getting this? Who has it? And let me ask the yes and no. Do you have this book? Tell me yes. Tell me yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, just do yes if you have the book. So if you don't, please, okay. I mean, if you don't have it, please don't fall behind, okay? Do just communicate to me in email that it's a problem. And I will give you some time. I mean, we'll have a little conversation about it, okay? Anybody else? Yes, book? No, I don't have the book. Wilson still no, okay. Yeah. So right now, let's take a look. I want to take a look at this poem. But yeah, if you don't have it, then please make sure to tell me. Okay. So the poem. I want to talk about this in relationship to Shore, because if you think about it, the poem is all about a shopping trip, right? A supermarket in California. So the poem is actually two poets go shopping, and one poet going shopping, but he's imagining another poet. And I wanted to look at this in a cartoon version, and I gave you a link to the cartoon version. But let's take a look. There's this one. This is the same poem, but done as a manga, right? As a drawing, as a cartoon. So let's start at the beginning, right? So there's our poet, and there's the moon, and the poet is walking out, and this is what he says. He says, "What thoughts I have of you tonight, Walt Whitman, for I walk down the side streets under the trees with a headache, self-conscious looking at the full moon." The poem starts with this idea, right? Poet out there under the moon and walking out, thinking about Walt Whitman. And it's important to note here, Walt Whitman, super famous American poet. Okay, so Walt Whitman is about 200 years ago. Walt Whitman's about a little bit less than 200 years, was born about 200 years ago. And so this poet, Allen Ginsberg, and this is basically what Allen Ginsberg looks like with the big beard. It looked like, he's dead now. But so Allen Ginsberg, the poet, walks out into the moon to talk to a famous dead poet from the past. Okay. Yeah. And then he goes into a supermarket. And let me just ask you, first place, is that, from what you think about poetry, where do poets usually go for inspiration? Right? If you're a poet and you want to write a poem, where do you go to find inspiration? Right? Where's it's just...
I think it's places with a lot of people. Yeah.
What about people?
Places with a lot of people.
So one is to go into people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Other thoughts? Or to talk to people? Yeah.
Nature, maybe.
Nature, right? I mean, this is the kind of normal sort of image of poets. If you want to write a poem, you go and experience the wind, or you go look at the sunset, or the crashing of the waves, right? You want to connect with the world, right? So yeah, nature is usually this is the association, right? That you go into nature. In this case, Ginsberg goes into a supermarket, and just to take a look, right? So in my hungry fatigue, right? So tired and hungry, and shopping for images, I went into the neon fruit supermarket, dreaming of your enumerations. And this is at the top is Walt Whitman, who's not really there. It's Ginsberg, the poet, is imagining Walt Whitman, imagining a conversation with him. So here he's imagining Walt Whitman like sitting on top of the supermarket and going into the supermarket. And then these, right? So he walks in, and these are the lines: "What peaches and what penumbras." Penumbras is kind of a problem, actually. Whole families shopping at night, aisles full of husbands, wives in the avocados, babies in the tomatoes. And you, Garcia Lorca, what were you doing down by the watermelons? Garcia Lorca is another famous poet in Spanish now. I saw you, Walt Whitman, childless, lonely old grubber, poking among the meats in the refrigerator and eyeing the grocery boys. Okay. And here's Walt Whitman carrying a sausage and eyeing the grocery boy. And Walt Whitman says, "What price bananas? Who killed the pork chops? And are you my angel?" Right. So let's just stop here. What is the poet saying about the supermarket, right? What is the experience here, right? The poet goes into the supermarket, and this is what he sees: peaches and penumbras, family shopping at night, aisles full of husbands, wives in the avocados, babies in the tomatoes, and then this famous poet in the watermelon doing something. I mean, what do you make of it? Thoughts about it? What's happening here? Well, let's just look at the images, right? I mean, because I think this is what the lines mean, right? Babies in the tomatoes. What can you say about this image? Right, this one looks weird. Yes, it does. Oh my God, they look so weird, right? I mean, can we just focus on the weirdness of this? The babies and the tomatoes. I mean, what do you think? What's going on there? Or Garcia Lorca, famous poet, with that watermelon. What are you doing, Garcia Lorca, with that watermelon?
I think everyone, whether to be there in their own section, enjoys what they are doing.
Enjoys what they are doing, right? This is all about the pleasure. I mean, how happy are those babies, right? Look at this little guy down here. Get that big smile. And look at, and the one like flopping around the tomatoes. How happy is that baby? Right? Just the pleasure of this, right? Same thing as Garcia Lorca. I mean, and Kit, you earlier talked about sexual innuendo. Maybe people at each state represent a kind of fruit, right? And in that sense, also, they do kind of represent a kind of fruit. I mean, the pleasures of fruit. Henry is really good, right? And thinking in terms of this, right, is that to be a kind of fruit is also to be a kind of object to be enjoyed, right? So it's funny. It's absolutely funny. Yeah, the pleasure from their choices, right? And I think that's exactly like I think this is where the humor is how much fun they're having. And the implication is that, you know, how much fun it is to buy, to shop, to eat, to consume, right? Going into, and you think about this is just, I think it is just fundamentally true. I mean, we ought to kind of forget about this about supermarkets because we do it all the time. The pleasures from their choices or form their choices, right? I mean, that is absolutely it. If you think about that experience of being in a supermarket, having your choice of everything, all this, you know, and you don't even really have to eat it. It's just the pleasure of looking at it and like, you know, imagining like, you know, all these things to consume, like, oh, that kind of cookie, like, oh, I love peaches. Oh, look at those ripe bananas, right? But this just the outpouring of pleasure that comes from the supermarket. Some of it kind of weird. I would go back to the strange thing, like, what is Garcia Lorca doing with that watermelon? Because it looks like it should be illegal. Like, I don't think I want to have that watermelon after Garcia Lorca is finished with it. Right?
He's making baby watermelons.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Something's happening with that watermelon, which is, you know, not so great. Not in the supermarket. Right. And I actually even this one, the next panel, I saw you, Walt Whitman. And it's worth saying that Garcia Lorca and Whitman were both gay, and Ginsberg is also gay, and he's clearly playing on that. I saw you, Walt Whitman, childless, lonely old grubber. Grubber's kind of a homeless guy, poking among the meats in the refrigerator and eyeing the grocery boys. Right. So here's Walt Whitman poking the meat, and then like this poor grocery boy. What is he thinking? This poor grocery kid. Like, look at that face. What is he thinking? Help! Right? What do you make of this question? A poet walks into, he looks so nervous. He looks terrified. He's like, oh my God. He's like, what the hell? Like the lead, he's like, what are you doing, you crazy man? And look at the questions that Whitman is asking. What price bananas? All right, that's a perfectly reasonable question. Who killed the pork chops? Are you my angel? I mean, what's happening here? Like, you know, like imagining if you go shopping, you say, what price bananas? Who killed the pork chops? Are you my angel? Like, what kind of questions are those? Any thoughts? I mean, they're not actually terrible questions. They're just weird questions. I mean, what price banana is obviously a perfectly good question. But yeah, because, you know, yeah, I mean, Wilson, you need to know, right? I mean, I'm going to buy this banana. Well, how much is it? How about who killed the pork chops? Right? How about
Actually,
that?
but he's not holding bananas, right?
He's not holding bananas. He's still poking the meats. Again, speaking about sexual innuendo, like Walt Whitman sitting there holding his sausage. Like, put down that sausage. But I think it is in the poem, is that there's this sense, like it's too much pleasure, right? Is you're not supposed to go to the supermarket and have that much pleasure in it, and yet the pleasure is kind of there. Yeah, I mean, clearly the problem here is what makes it, Lily, you said, it's funny, but it's a little bit like, huh? And it is a little uncomfortable and weird. And I think it is because Waltman is getting almost too much fun out of this, right? You're not supposed to go into the supermarket and display pleasure like that, although the pleasure is there. Yeah, other thoughts. I'll just go down a little bit. The next question, I mean, yeah, look at this. I wandered in and out of the brilliant stacks of cans following you and followed in my imagination by the store detective. And remember, Walt Whitman is imaginary. Ginsberg's actually walking around by himself, imagining a famous poet with him. And I guess also imagining that he's being, a store detective. That's old. It used to be that stores hired a police officer, not a police officer, but someone specifically from an agency to watch the items. We strode down the open corridors together in our solitary fancy, tasting artichokes, possessing every frozen delicacy, and never passing the cashier. Right? How do you make that? We strode down the open corridors together in our solitary fancy, tasting artichokes, possessing every frozen delicacy, and never passing the cashier. What do you think?
He's describing as though they're a couple.
So one, yeah, and here they're kind of arm in arm. Is this kind of the pleasure of being together, right? And abandoning themselves to the senses. So there are a couple, right, united in this kind of in the pleasure of the supermarket. Yeah, absolutely, right. What do you make? I mean, if they never pass the cashier, assumably they never pay, right? So are they stealing? I mean, they're tasting the artichokes and they're possessing every frozen delicacy, which is like, I guess, going on the frozen cookie dough. So are they stealing?
I think they're engaging in the act of buying without actually buying to enjoy the pleasure of buying stuff.
Okay, right. And this is important, is that, I mean, actually it could be stealing, but at least that there are ways of enjoying, without tasting, right? Is that there is the imagination, the pleasures of the mind. And that at very least walking to the supermarket, with your imagination, you can enjoy things that way. And they seem to be united in that. Although they do have artichokes in their hands, but you can't really eat an artichoke without just like it doesn't sound very good. So one assumes that it's imagination. Okay, so the next way to bring this back is how to tie this to shore. And the second essay number 2, will be exactly that, taking ideas in the, hold on, let me get it up. Number 2. Yeah, this is our essay topic. And I'm going to post this, don't worry, on the assignments, but just to introduce it. Let's see. Basically, the topic is to take something in the commercial and tie it to a text, or something in shore and tie it to a text. So we're gonna get a bunch more, but even just thinking about how to relate what Shore was saying to this poem, Ginsberg's poem, how the argument that Shore was making would relate to Allen Ginsberg's poem. And just any thoughts about that? Thoughts about it? How you can make these connections? All right. Well, let's keep thinking about this. I'm going to post this is our next assignment will be the same way as the first assignment was Ice Age and Halkett. Next assignment will be based around Charlie Bright's Sour Crawlers and Shore. Trying to take something in either of those texts and tying it to a literary text. For instance, in the commercial, right? How might that relate to Ginsberg's poem? Any ideas? Just how to tie the commercial to Ginsberg's poem? It's kind of the same thing, I think, right? It's that if you think about it, like those kids, the boys in the commercial, they don't care about anyone else. They don't care how people see them. It's just about the pleasure of the object, right? All they care about is that wonderful, yummy worm, you know? And the fact that it upsets everybody around them, they don't care because it's all about their pleasure. You know, it's all what they're enjoying is the and sure hates it, but that's what they're doing. Like in that commercial, it's presenting the incredible pleasure you get out of a consumer object. That's Ginsberg's doing, right? It's like, I don't care about anyone else. Pleasure. The idea of the poem, the idea of the world is how much pleasure there is for me to take. And okay, I make the grocery boy a little uncomfortable, but you know what? That's his problem, because it feels so good, right? I mean, to me, there's a connection there. Any other thoughts about making connections? Okay, well, this is down the road. This is our next assignment, and it's not actually due to the end of the month. So we'll start thinking about it now, and next week we'll come back to it again with, I can't remember, another text. And yeah, other than that, what do I have to say? I think I'm done. Yeah, so I'm finished. Thank you guys so much for coming late or coming early. And I'll hang out for 10 minutes or so, or however long you need, if anyone wants to talk. And otherwise, thank you guys. And I think I said this, but Friday I will have, Friday or maybe Saturday, I will have the first submissions graded and marked up, and I'll pass them back, and then you guys can rewrite from there. Okay. So if you got any questions, I'll hang out. Otherwise, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next week. Done.
Thank you, Professor. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kit. You have a great day or a great evening, great night.